Hello, hello, hello. My name is Jason Allen. I'm a realtor based in Palm Springs, California. I work for Keller Williams Luxury Homes right in downtown. I'm here today to talk about what's new for sellers, and I'm wearing my S shirt. It's we know what it's for, but I'm gonna say S for sellers today. And with this recent lawsuit that some have heard about, the National Association of Realtors settling a lawsuit and California proactively adopting some additional rules and some changes to be in conformity with the proposed settlement of the lawsuit. I want to tell sellers here what you need to know. All right. Under the new rules, you as a seller are going to negotiate with your agent representative what you will pay your agent's broker for representation. Period. You will not include in your listing agreement any compensation you may offer to the buyer's agent or buyer's broker or to the buyer in an effort to help them pay for that representation. I'll say briefly the why. The premise of that is, and for those that are new to selling real estate, in the old days, I would sign a listing agreement as a seller with an agent representative and say, I'm going to pay you X amount of money. And then separately, at least in California, there would be a line that would said, in the event there was a cooperating broker, another brokerage brought a buyer to the property, I want you, my agent's broker or my brokerage, to share some of your income with the other side. Some of the money that I'm going to pay you, I want you to share with the other side. And that would all be spelled out in the listing agreement. And that's what's changed for sellers. That's no longer part of a listing agreement. So have that in your mind. And you're going to negotiate, just as you would have before, what amount you will pay your broker to represent you in marketing and negotiating and closing a transaction for me to sell my house. The buyer, on the other hand, and if you watch my buyer video, it explains that the buyer is going to now have an agreement with their representative, and that agreement will state how much they're going to pay their representative. When you receive an offer from a buyer, there will be a line on the offer that asks the seller to please pay your representative, the buyer's representative, X amount of money. And here's the documentation associated with the agreement that buyer has with their agent that says, this is what we agreed to pay them. And then as a seller, you can decide, it's a term of the agreement, whether you accept that or whether you reject that. And if you reject it, then you're going to have your agent prepare a counteroffer or simply say, nope, seller's not interested. Thank you very much. Why is that the case? Well, in theory, if the seller says, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay that, or here's what I'm going to pay you, that buyer has already agreed to pay their agent some amount greater than what you're offering, perhaps, and they then have to come up with that money. They have to come up with the money regardless if you choose not to offer anything. But historically, buyers arrive at a transaction cash poor. They're trying to pull their down payment together. They have their own closing costs. And so that request to have the seller pay all or some of their buyer representation costs is inevitable. Now, this is going to be purely market driven from a seller's perspective. If you as a seller have 5 offers or even 2 offers, one of which asks you to pay the buyer's agent's compensation, and other offers that don't, and they're higher, your net to you, the final amount you get is greater by going with one of those. That's what you're going to do. I mean, it's not rocket science. If you're a seller who's been on market for, I don't know, some length of time, that exceeds your tolerance, and you get one offer, and in that offer, the buy it generally looks good, and the buyer's asking you to compensate their agent at X dollars that you can tolerate, you might take it. Like this isn't complicated, and we don't need to overcomplicate it. Sellers who anticipate based on market conditions to have to compensate the buyer's agent are going to get to a successful closing table. And those that refuse to, well, the listing agent who takes their listing and doesn't prepare a seller for that possibility, they may be sadly disappointed, because I can tell you, I invest a lot of money and a lot of time in every listing that I take. And I want to be clear with the seller that the market is going to dictate how many buyers are going to come to the table, how quickly they're going to come, and what the offers are going to look like. And if you, Mr. Seller or Miss Seller, are like, oh, I don't really need to sell, I can wait it out, and if it doesn't work this time, I'll sell it in a year or 2 years, I'm probably not going to take the listing. Like, unless I got nothing else going on, that's not a listing I want. It's just too, you as a seller are saying, Jason, I want you to assume all the liability, risk, and cost associated with doing this, and I'm going to take or leave whatever offers that come. Now, I don't expect a seller to take a terrible offer, but if that's their premise going in, I want to have that conversation. Likewise, if a seller just says, in no circumstance am I going to pay a buyer's agent compensation, it's like, okay, great. What do you want for your property? Oh, well, I want what my neighbor got. They got $850 next door. My house is just as good. I want $850. Oh, let's go online. Oh, look, it turns out they actually paid a buyer's commission. So what we're going to have to do is discount your house by that much to be at parity with that. So this idea that sellers are now going to have more leverage, or buyers are going to have more leverage in the marketplace, I don't necessarily buy that. But the point of all of this video is to say, sellers, you're not going to see that offer of compensation or concession built into the listing agreement. It's going to come when an offer arrives from a buyer. And it may be that they're asking you to pay some amount towards the buyer's closing costs. That way the buyer's not spending their cash on that, but rather spending their cash on their representation. At the end of the day, agents on both sides of the deal have to get paid. They are doing work for their client. And for some reason, at least in Missouri, where the Sitzer-Burnett case was brought up, they didn't have a system whereby a buyer could negotiate the rate they were paying their agents. California fixed this at least 15 years ago, if not 20 years ago. And so we just kind of got swept up into the process. And as I say, California Association of Realtors is taking proactive steps to be in conformity with the lawsuit, the proposed lawsuit settlement. So there you go. If you have any questions about this or other things real estate related, do not hesitate to reach out. And that's it. Have a great day.